Hi, Rosebuds. This is your host with Rose Ace, Daniel Dorn, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit today on tragic backstories. Writers, beware. Writing a tragic backstory does not make your character automatically relatable. Now, we'll talk about what makes a character more relatable on another time. But I wanted to talk to you a little bit why tragic backstories just sometimes aren't the best way to go about writing things. So this is not saying that you should stop. This is not saying that you should not write backstories. But it's just to clarify why sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. So I had this epiphany about this little thing here. This is my idea. I fit it on a sticky note. So anyways, this is this idea, but it's better. Okay, and I actually put it on the computer. So let's see, this is a little bit of a timeline mixed with an idea, like the graphics and things. So it's not perfect, forgive me, but I have been trying to learn more about Photoshop and things. So anyways, without further ado, let's get started. So it starts with a character that is already developed. You can't write a tragic backstory for a character that hasn't been old enough to go through things in life. So you don't want to have a tragic backstory for a character that's like 5 years old or 10 years old, because they don't have enough of life experience to really base a story on. So here we see the character icon, and I put it as a diamond, kind of like a Sims character, I guess. I don't know why. But anyways, it is in the middle of the middle-ish of the timeline, and the story that happens next is where we're gonna explore. So let's see. Okay, so you want to make sure this is character. So this is talking about the look of your character and things. So like I said, you want a character that is already developed to an extent. Okay, now exploring the tragic backstory, or the TBS, which we'll call it for now on. The TBS or the BS, it doesn't always have to be something sad. The truth about it, a lot of people who write, it's like, well, throw in a tragic backstory, make it relatable. That doesn't work, okay? Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But let me tell you, how many action movies are there where the guy loses his wife, loses his kids, and he's out for vengeance? And that's his drive for the whole movie, is seeking vengeance on his family. Anybody can relate to that, but does that make your character automatically likable or automatically relatable? You have to be careful. So, a TBS, tragic backstory. So, looking at that, why does it always have to be tragic? The truth about life is we all come from different backgrounds. We all have different, nationalities, and we all have different things. And they're not tragic. They may not be the best of circumstances, but sometimes they're not just heartbreaking, heart-wrenching things. Look at the cast of RWBY, the main four girls. So, Ruby and Yang, they're related. They have somewhat of a, uniting backstory because of their family relationships and stuff. Now, Weiss, we saw a little more about her later. And it's not that she has a tragic backstory. She just comes from a pretty, she comes from a family that, let's just say there's a lot of miscommunication. Her mom is drinking and her dad is pretty pompous and her brother is even worse. So, and it's not really a broken family. It's just like they're all kind of doing their own thing. Like they're emotionally, there's an emotional discord there. And then with Blake, coming from pretty much, to put it bluntly, dealing with, racism in a way, with her being a faunus and stuff, and dealing with that and all the things, and being misled by Adam and all. I think that was his name. I can't remember. It's been a while since I watched it. But you can see how all those things added up to where each of them, very diverse, have different backgrounds. And Ruby, she has probably the least tragic. Why is that? Probably because she's one of the she's one of the youngest ones. But, you know, because she wasn't in a bad situation like, say, Blake was, where she was threatened and almost, you know, she was in the middle of a lot of, you know, violence and stuff her whole life. So let's explore stories that involve more than just being tragic, you know. Let's look at stories that have more diversity and more, you know, okay, this one deals with violence, this one deals with some, you know, embarrassment, and then this one kind of deals with something different. So anyways, you want something to go back on. The whole point of backstory is being old enough to have a backstory, okay? But like I said, it doesn't necessarily have to be tragic. I'm going to not repeat myself as much as I did last time. Okay. So, looking at the character, you know, this is talking about character and all. Now, morals. The TBS always leads to the morals, which is. Okay, so the TBS always leads to the morals, which is how they act, what they stand for, what the character advocates. Okay, being, you know, the morals are based on the tragic backstory. You know, Blake in Ruby, you know, she had a, you know, she didn't like people, I think, for a while because, you know, humans were bad and stuff. And a lot of the other people that she hung around thought the same thing because they were constantly putting the faunus in danger. So your morals on is kind of fused, is kind of baked into your character based on their backstories and things and how they is why they are like this. So Weiss in the beginning of Ruby was very like she's really snarky and like she was off-putting and like she just kind of she didn't want to engage with the rest of the group like how they wanted her to. She didn't want to hang out, she didn't want to make friends and stuff, but she was good at what she did. She was a very excellent fighter, but she didn't want friends, you know, she didn't want to talk about that and stuff. She didn't want that emotional connection because she liked it with her family. Makes perfect sense. So, you know, the morals are talking about this is how they act. This is why they're like this because of their backstory. And, you know, again, saying how the backstory isn't solely based on tragedies, but saying that it is explaining why they are the way they are. And this is leading to how this character is going to impact the future of, you know, who they meet and stuff. You cannot write a story without meeting new characters. So having your character being led by morals based on where they've been in their backstory is going to, you know, prove how is going to, you know, show, is going to start how, hold on, it's going to show the viewers how they're going to impact the story and how they're going to treat everybody they come in contact with. Another good example is My Name is Earl. I guess the whole point of that show, you know, his, TBS was ultimately getting hit by a car, which is why he is where he is now, and his morals of completing the list takes him to what happened and making up for all the wrong that he's committed, more so than just saying I'm sorry, but going and acting and doing all those things, which I think we should all do that at some point in life. So anyways, you know, it explains why it explains where they are emotionally and explains their drive and stuff. Well, not really their drive, but what they stand for and like how they act. So this is about their actions specifically. Okay, now we move on to personality traits. So this is what kind of character they are, such as the attributes. Okay, so are they brave? Are they stupid? Are they unreliable? So, you know, how is that different from morals? Well, like I said, morals are talking about what they stand for, what they advocate. This leads to their personality. In the case of Weiss, which I think is probably the best example, because she does not come from a TBS. She just has the BS. She has the character. She's got the look of, you know, a person who has that backstory. and then how she acts because she has that emotional discord with her family, and then she acts like that because of what she's been through with her own family, which leads her to having a pretty personality of, I don't want to make friends, I don't like you, I like you, and all this stuff in the beginning. Now eventually we'll see that change because of character development and all that other stuff. But again, the morals show how they interact with the world around them, The personality traits is going to explain what kind of character they are at this time prior to their character development. So being brave, stupid, unreliable. And it's like, well, that's a big change, you know. I wanted to put like kind of some negative attributes besides ones that's just all positive and stuff all the time. I wanted some things that's kind of like, we don't really talk too much about those other ones. So, it talks, the personality traits are what kind of character they are / attributes. So the things attributing to their morals, essentially. So if they have bad morals, then they're gonna be closer to the stupid or unreliable, more so than the brave and the courageous and like the virtuous attributes. They're gonna lean more toward the negative traits and things. So now all of this should answer the question, why are you doing this? Okay, tragic backstories lead to a character that's had some sort of experience and that TBS explains how they act based on those things that leads to these positive or negative personality traits. And it leads to, why are you doing this? Which is specifically talking about the motive. So that's what all of this is going toward. Okay? The motive is the biggest reason for all of this. Now, I don't think that you need all of this just to explain why somebody is the way they are, or are the way they are. But it's a good way, it's a good base to start when developing a character. So, you can always take like an original character and look at them and say, okay, what kind of personality are they going to have? Well, they're going to be pretty bitter. Let's talk about being bitter. So, okay, they're bitter. They're a bitter person. Why? Okay, well, they're bitter because insert TBS. Or, in this case, just the BS. I love saying that. It's so funny. So, in this case, just the BS. Like I said, it doesn't always have to be tragic. It doesn't always have to be one specific thing. It doesn't have to be even something bad. They could be, now it's like, well, could they be bitter over something good? Well, what's being bitter over something good? Are you talking about something good that happened to them or something good that happened to somebody else? Because, see, someone being bitter about someone else is called jealousy. Yeah, so it leads to bitterness. So it would be interesting to see, why is this person bitter? If something good happened, supposedly something good happened to somebody else. Because if you are mad because something good happens to someone else, you are envious, and envy can lead to a plethora of character development. Now, the biggest thing, you don't want to make characters that are unrelatable. I know a lot of people might look at my book and go, I just don't feel related. These characters just aren't that relatable to me. Well, the problem is I have such a vast cast in my novel. So I was actually introducing every character in that book. I was introducing. And honestly, it was hard to keep track of certain ones at certain times. But I didn't want like, oh, you don't know this person? Well, let's have something bad happen to them. No, that's not the case. Okay, and another thing is we just haven't seen enough of them yet. And I do have plans for that. So with the TBS, like I said, it doesn't have to be tragic all the time. So it could be, you could start with developing a character using this at any point. Gosh. Okay. So with the personality traits, you can start there. What kind of character do you want? Well, motive. First of all, do you want a hero or a villain? So let's look at, I've been wanting to talk about her for such a long time. Let's talk about Light, okay? So for those of you who don't know, Light is introduced in chapter 5 of my book. Let's talk about her motive, okay? She has motive, and let's see, I'm trying to remember. Her motive is power. She is led by power and being dominant and feared and, all these things. And because of that, you could probably tell, she doesn't sound like a hero. She doesn't quite sound like a hero. But what I don't explain is the things that lead up to that point yet. Those things happen later on in the book as a whole. So, it's pretty fun to look with that and stuff. For the second half of this video, please click on the link provided. And please remember to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos.